It's Philippine News Day. We're going to talk about a condo fire, some of you've heard about, a Ferry Fire, travel requirements and restrictions here in the Philippines. What's going on? What do you need to come into the Philippines? I'll cover that in depth, and a number of other stories. If you are new to the channel, please hit the subscribe and notification bell. Always helps to hit the thumbs up or thumbs down as well if you enjoy the content, so that you'll be notified of upcoming videos. Usually do about 3 a week. I've got over 1,000 videos up over about 6 years now. Cost of living, travel videos, condominium real estate videos. What do you get in these various towers? Anyway, let's get into the stories here. Story from Manila Bulletin. It's made all the papers here, but this one lays it out a little bit better, I think. 3.9 billion lost in Cebu City high-rise condo building fire, and this is April 15th. This guy dying is unrelated to this. A 43-year-old man died while over 4 billion in property was destroyed in separate fires here on Friday, April 14th. Now this is Grand Residences. Over behind this, across the street over here, is IT Park. Over behind this smoke over here is a big IT Park area, big commercial, residential, retail business park. These towers here have been occupied for several years. This is also part of Grand Residences. They're much smaller than this. I think it's 37 stories, and we'll get down to the story down here. Yeah, black smoke rises from 37-story condominium building, still under construction. The Grand Residences. The fire started at Grand Residence Tower 4 at 2:41 p.m. and was declared out 9 hours later, 11:49 p.m. Senior Fire Officer Navarro said it was a challenge for the firefighters to quickly put out the fire as it started on the 37th floor. Initial reports showed that the condominium complex owned by Shogun Management and Development Corporation is still under construction, but some units are already occupied. I don't know if they're occupied in that tower or not. Not absolutely sure there. We face challenges in every fire incident. This time it's a different case. The fire started at the top, then it spread to lower floors. Villanueva said firefighters did not expect that the fire would spread quickly to lower floors. The building has a big pipe from top to bottom. It was likely the reason why the fire spread quickly. The pipe melted and it fell on some stocks that were also combustible. Operation. Villanueva admitted there's a need to improve the CCFO's aerial equipment. CCFO currently has 3 aerial ladder fire trucks, but these can only reach the 18th floor. Didn't know that. I didn't know they could go that high. So I suspect it will be some days, weeks, or probably even months before people who have bought pre-selling units there will find out the status of their situation, and what kind of delay that will cause, how much damage was done, and what kind of delay will result in their move-in dates. Over to the sunstar.com.ph. This is an article about kind of an updated article about the fire at Grand Residences. OBO chief, safety officers must be present at construction sites. And this is some interesting information here. And this is the first fire at a high-rise building here in Cebu. So it has brought up a number of concerns. Anyway, let's get into the dated April 17th, Jeremy Librea. The presence of safety officers is required at each construction site. Failure to comply with this requirement may result in a suspension order being imposed. Now, I managed a scaffold forming and shoring company in Phoenix, Arizona many, many years ago. And there were many OSHA, which has many rules about safety on the job. had many rules about using. Everybody had to rent out or purchase the guardrails to go around the outside of the scaffolding. Anyway, many of them, even though they had to buy them, would never use them until, of course, somebody fell off and died. Then the safety people, OSHA, would come and inspect, come down hard on people, started arriving at construction sites more often. Anyway, you can have rules and regulations, but unless they're followed, you're going to have some issues. Anyway, the National Building Code and the Department of Labor and Employment require a security officer to act as the overseer of the project's overall safety, with each section of the project, such as electrical, fire, and mechanical sections, also needing their respective safety officers, according to Catalan. The personnel at OBO conduct daily inspections at all ongoing construction sites in the city. It's interesting. Who also personally inspects construction sites twice a week. OBO personnel conduct inspections at construction sites to check if safety officers are present and if construction workers are following safety protocols. In the case of Grand Residence, Catalan explained that the building was no longer included in their daily inspections since it was already due for occupancy and was about to apply for an occupancy permit. Catalan also reminded building owners, developers, and contractors to ensure that fire extinguishers are installed within the area. He emphasized the importance of companies with ongoing construction projects reorienting their workers on safety protocols at the construction site. Makes it very alarming. Based on the investigation of the fire department, a spark from a welding rod used by construction workers may have caused the fire that started on the 37th floor, the top floor of the building. The 4th to 35th floors of the building suffered major damage, as reported by the fire department. Now, I've had that happen. One of my first jobs out of college, I ran a small metal job shop, a material handling company, manufacturer, and we had the fire of this small manufacturing facility. It had insulation on the roof, and a spark from a welding rod caught a little tube of glue that was sitting on a workbench, started that on fire, which started the workbench on fire, which went up the wall and started the paper on the fiberglass insulation on fire. And fortunately, we had, I think we had at least 10 fire extinguishers there, and it was the type that heavier than air. So you'd blow it up on and I was helping do this, you would blow it up towards the fire on the ceiling, and because that contents were heavier than air, it would initially almost put it out, and then as the heavier than air product would drop, the fire would start up again. But we did finally succeed in putting it out completely with very little damage, actually. So anyway, there's that's really a sad story. Almost ready for occupancy. Therefore, there were not safety people on site. Apparently, inspections had stopped, and look what happened. One of the places I rented for a short period of time here in Cebu City, rented from an Australian guy, and I think he had disabled his smoke alarm, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, everything's made out of concrete. What's going to burn? Well, there are things that are going to burn: your curtains, your furniture. It'll give off poisonous gases. So I ended up going out and buying my own smoke alarm, and got by with that for a number of months anyway, until I moved. Jumping over to the Philstar Global, BI, Bureau of Immigration, e-travel system rolls out today. Well, what does that mean? I thought they already had an e-travel system in place. Starting today, April 15th, travelers to and from the Philippines are required to use the e-travel system of the Bureau of Immigration for faster and more convenient airport procedures. Now, wait just a second here as we get further into this. In a statement, Immigration Commissioner explained that the e-travel system is a single data collection platform for arriving and departing passengers in the Philippines that establishes integrated border control, health surveillance, and economic data analysis. Not only does this speed up immigration clearance, this initiative also ensures interoperability among border management agencies and saves government resources. Under the new system, all passengers and crew members arriving in the Philippines are required to register through etravel.gov.ph not earlier than 72 hours from their intended arrival. Those who fail to register through eTravel will be assisted by the airline staff upon arrival and before assessment by the quarantine office. But the BI, Bureau of Immigration, clarified that as a replacement of the paper-based departure cards, only outbound Filipino passengers are required to register in the system at least 72 hours, but not less than 3 hours from their scheduled departure from the Philippines. So that's important. If you're a foreigner departing, you are not required at this point in time. According to this article, that only outbound Filipino passengers are required to register in the system. Outgoing, that is. Departing Filipinos who fail to register or update their e-travel record may do it before the immigration inspection or may fill out departure cards, which are readily available inside the immigration area. Registered passengers may update their status under the Edit Registration tab and the crew under the Registered Crew tab. The paper-based arrival and departure cards can only be used by passengers who are incapable of e-travel registration and in the event that the e-travel site is inaccessible, meaning the internet is down or their site is down. Registering updated records are free of charge. Jumping over to Philippine Airlines, travel during COVID, and there's a number of things across the top you can go to. But anyway, let's go down here. Planning. You can find your requirements by destination. So, just for instance, I plugged Cleveland in here. Cebu is the destination, unvaccinated traveler type, and you've got Filipino nationals, former Filipino with Bellic buy-in privilege, foreign nationals from visa-free countries, foreign nationals entering through 9A, long-term visa, foreign nationals through other types of visas, diplomats and such. Anyway, we're going to pick foreign nationals from visa-free countries, and I think that's over 100 different nations, but not all nations. I think India, Israel, a few other have special privileges and or requirements. Search. You are allowed to travel to this destination if you meet the requirements below. Travel type, unvaccinated, foreign nationals from visa-free countries. Proof of vaccination, not required. Facility-based quarantine, not required. Home quarantine, not required. Not required, but self-monitor for 7 days, highly encouraged. Government requirements, e-travel registration. All passengers are required to register on e-travel within 72 hours prior to their departure. Medical certification, not required. Mobile application, not required. Passport validity, required. You should have at least 6 months on your passport at the time of arrival in the Philippines. COVID test. Passengers 15 years old and above must present a negative antigen test result valid within 24 hours prior to departure. So you need to get a negative antigen test 24 hours before your plane departs. Now that can be a problem in a number of ways. Number one, most countries have gone on from this and treating COVID just like the flu or anything else. And it's going to become more and more difficult to find a place to test you and get that negative result. Failure to present negative pre-departure test, passengers shall be shall be subject to undergo a laboratory-based antigen test upon arrival. Travel insurance not required. Return ticket. Strictly within 30 days back to the port of origin or to the next port of destination outside the Philippines. Well, that's your ongoing ticket. And you know, there's different information about this, but if the airline says you need it and you buy your ticket with this airline, Philippine Airlines, you're not going to get on the plane probably. So they say your flight out of the Philippines has to be within 30 days from the point that you arrive, the day that you arrive. And that is what you get. You get 30-day visa on arrival. Other people say, oh no, as long as you have a return ticket or ongoing ticket, even if it's 6 months later, that's just fine. Well, that's not what this says. That's not what the airline says. Visa, not required. You get visa on arrival. So I'll go back here again. Flying from Atlanta this time, USA, to Cebu, fully vaccinated, foreign nationals from visa-free countries. Search and see what it says. You are allowed to travel. Travel type, proof of vaccination required. Now somebody made a comment on one of my videos previously saying, no, you don't need any proof of vaccination. Well, this is what it says. You may present any of the following: World Health Organization International Certificate of Vaccination and Prophylaxis. Number 2, VaxCert PH. Number 3, national or state manual digital vaccination certificate of the country, foreign government, or other proofs of vaccination permitted by the IATF. And you can go to that link if you want to see what they are. Facility-based quarantine not required. Home quarantine not required. But a self-monitor for 7 days is highly encouraged. Don't know why, but it is. Government requirements, e-travel registration required. Medical certification not required. Mobile application not required. Passport validity, your passport should be good for 6 months. COVID-19 test. Passengers 15 years old and above with or without booster shots shall not be required to present COVID-19 test, provided that they received second dose series or single dose vaccine for more than 14 days prior to departure from country of origin. Travelers must possess and present any accepted proof of vaccination. Travel insurance, not required but highly encouraged. Return ticket, strictly within 30 days back to the port of origin or ongoing ticket, leaving the Philippines. Visa, not required because you're getting a visa on arrival. You're going to have to do what they say or you may be riding outside of the plane. And this over at PNA, Philippine News Agency. Telcos call for extension of SIM registration. That is the SIM card that goes into your cell phone, and it's either from one of the 3 various companies, or if you have a dual SIM phone, all of those SIMs, like I do. Globe, Smart, and Dito. Anyway, the telecommunications companies, telcos, have asked the government to extend the deadline for the subscriber identity module SIM registration, as many mobile users are yet to register despite the April 26th deadline. In the statement on Wednesday, Smart Communications and TNT announced their intention to file a formal letter of request to the Department of Information and Communications Technology, DICT, and the National Telecommunications Commission to extend the deadline. We are filing this request to help give ample time to all mobile users, particularly the marginalized sectors and those located in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas of the country, to register their SIMs, PLD Smart First Vice President Kathy Yang said. Yang said about 46% of active smart and TNT mobile users have registered their SIMs. To help register those with no access to the internet, she said SIM registration booths have been set up in remote areas nationwide in collaboration with the DICT, NTC, and other government agencies. These booths offer information and guidance on how to register smart and TNT SIMs using acceptable ID cards, as well as provide physical assistance to senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and those using non-data phones. On the other hand, Globe Telecom, Globe, joined the call for an extension as less than half of its active users have registered their SIM cards. Globe noted that many mobile users have failed to register their SIMs due to having no government identification and a lack of digital literacy. And yeah, they're just you're going to find when you come here, probably you will meet people who have no government IDs, because condominiums where you invite them to visit you, they will say without an ID they're not getting in, and they say we don't have IDs. Given these issues, we appeal to the government to extend the SIM registration process to give our customers more time to get their required government IDs and input the required information on our site. To help increase the number of registration, it asked government authorities to consider allowing alternative IDs such as company IDs, school IDs, and barangay certificates for those with no valid government-issued ID. Another option, he said, is to allow conditional registration or allow users to keep using their SIM card while they work on obtaining a valid ID. The Republic Act 11934, or the SIM Registration Act, regulates the use of SIM cards to help curb the proliferation of text scams and other mobile phone-aided criminal activities. According to the law, all SIM users have until April 26 to register their SIMs under their name or risk deactivation of their SIM. This is a story from a while back in March, and this on AP. It made many of the international papers. Philippine ferry kills 31 people, at least 7 missing. And I've seen another article saying that they'd recovered all the missing people, and another one saying that there were still a couple missing. So I don't know exactly what the latest information is. Anyway, Manila, Philippines. A fire broke out on a ferry in the southern Philippines and raged overnight for 8 hours, killing at least 31 of the approximately 250 passengers and crew. Many of the more than 200 people who survived the blaze jumped off the MV Lady Mary Joy 3 and were rescued from the dark sea by the Coast Guard, Navy, and nearby ferry and local fishermen. And it's off the southern island province of Basilan. Rescuers were still searching Thursday for at least 7 missing people. Down here a little further, Hademan said the burned ferry was towed to Basilan's shoreline, where the bodies of 18 of the 31 victims were discovered in a budget section of the passenger cabin. These victims perished on board due to the fire. He said more people may have been on the ferry who were not listed on the manifest. The ferry skipper, however, told Coast Guard officials that he tried to run the burning ferry aground on the nearest shore to allow more people to survive or be rescued. Fire raged for about 8 hours. Now, I like to keep things in perspective. There are hundreds, perhaps thousands of ferries operating every day here in the Philippines safely without incidents, 99.9% of the time probably. Is that a concern when you're traveling? Is it a concern when you fly or when you get in a vehicle? I think the data shows that if you're in a four-wheel vehicle traveling, your chances of an accident are much greater than out on the sea or in an airplane. And on another note, there's another site I listen to, it's called What's Going On in Shipping, and primarily about the shipping costs, a lot of the logistics. And he was discussing there was a ferry up in Seattle, Washington, USA area that lost its power, diesel electric type system, lost its power, was not able to continue navigating between a couple islands, Seattle and forget what the other island was, but a lot of water up there in the Seattle area. Uh, Probably hundreds of ferry routes every day as well. Anyway, they had to ground that ferry on a shoreline as best they could so that they could get pulled back off. And then after many, many, many hours, they helped the people get off the ferry onto that island, put them on buses or whatever. There was another, I think it was a Navy ship that went over sideways, capsized when it was being put into the water someplace in the U.S. as well. So all these things happen around the world. Many of us are not aware of them until they make the headline news, of course. Boxing judge beats up exec. This is here over on Lapu-Lapu City, I think. Let's see, boxing. Cebu, Philippines. A boxing judge stole the limelight away from the fighters during a boxing event in Lapu-Lapu City over on Mactan Island over the weekend after being arrested for beating up the top official of the Games and Amusement Board, GAB, in Cebu. Like a seasoned boxer, Eduardo delivered multiple solid punches in the face of GAB Cebu officer in charge Jimmy Donton, resulting in injuries to the head and a broken nose. It's always more fun in the Philippines. I think they had an ongoing feud that got out of hand there. Anyway, one or two more other stories here. Be careful of this scam. Foreign travelers have been scammed here recently, especially over the Easter weekend when millions of people are traveling. And Bantayan Island is a big resort area up on the north end of, it's an island off the north end of Cebu. And anyway, it can happen any place. But anyway, these people, apparently, a number of people, booked their resort rooms on a social media site instead of an official booking site like booking.com or something like that. Perhaps probably went through Facebook, and it turned out to be a scam. They showed up at their resort hotel. People said, "No, you don't have any reservations here." The people couldn't provide them with a proper reservation number, any other details that were official. I think Bantayan, the city, local authorities helped them find a place to stay. Eventually, I'm sure they had to pay twice then. I'm sure they didn't get the places for free. So you paid to the scammer, and then you paid for the actual room resort that you rented. So be careful where you connect with people. And last but not least, let's talk about what your money is worth here in the Philippines. And there are a number of charts off to the side there. Forex, there are a number of sites that give you daily money exchange rates depending upon what your currency is. This particular one, Philippine Star, puts this in their newspaper, and you can go directly to their site as well and look for different conversions. There are conversions from a number of countries over here on the side if that's big enough for you to read that. But anyway, I was surprised. I had not checked this for a week or two, and it was the dollar peso rate was I think high 53, close to 54 for quite some time, and I was really surprised that it went up over 55 again. 55 pesos to each US dollar. Now, when I first came here, I think it was 48.5. So basically anything over 50 or above, I'm pretty happy with that. And, it gives you more buying power. But at the same time, inflation is terrible here. I think it's just below what they call 8%, 7.8%, something like that. But the fact of the matter is, especially if you're buying foreign goods that are shipped in, I have seen a tremendous increase in prices of foreign goods that are shipped here. I don't know if it's because of the tariffs or shipping costs. I know shipping costs went very high during the pandemic for a couple of years, but they have come back down. They've come back down almost to pre-pandemic levels now in many areas, shipping around the world. That's one of the sites I watch occasionally. it's called What's Going On in Shipping, I believe. And he's got a YouTube channel. Does a really good job in talking about the costs and the logistics of where the ships are going. In fact, Long Beach and LA shipping terminals are losing a lot of their freight is going to the Gulf Coast of the USA and or to the East Coast of the USA. Part of it has to do with union problems. They have not. They're working without a contract there, I guess, and the reliability issues. They could get locked out, and or the union could strike. California has some extreme environmental laws about the number of types of trucks that can come into California now. They basically shut tens of thousands of trucks from entering California, so there's a lot less trucks entering that, so therefore probably the freight costs to get those trucks in and newer trucks in and to move that freight is probably higher. Anyway, I'll end here with it's more fun in the Philippines. So boy, if you got an inclination, you got some money and time and energy, I suggest yeah, make the trip. It's a very welcoming country and easy to come here, especially if you're one of the, I think, over 100 nations where you get a visa on arrival. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.